Greetings, everyone. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with another episode of 50 Years in the Dungeon. Wow, I went blank with the with the three different shows I do every week. Usually, I come up and I just fall into the right pattern. I didn't know what to say for a second there. Sorry. We can start over if you want. No? Alright, I'll keep going. 50 Years in the Dungeon. This is a show where I'm celebrating the 50th anniversary of the game Dungeons & Dragons and the entire role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game hobby, which did not exist before Dungeons & Dragons. And I'm doing that by interviewing folks who have been involved in the creation of the game and talking about that. A lot of them are people I worked with since I worked on the game for TSR Incorporated and Wizards of the Coast, and as a freelancer. And I've been playing it since 1979, which is most of the 50 years. So, yeah, that's what the show usually is. Oh, also, while I'm talking to them, it's the exciting part. While I'm talking to them, I'm usually drawing a cartoon homage to one of the classic pieces of D&D art. Picking one, well, I'll go over that in more detail in a little bit. What I'm here to say, though, to start off, is that's not what's happening today. Today, I'm taking the chance to just do a little kind of state of the show speech. Speech isn't, just kind of talk about where we're at. I know the last 2 weeks, last week I had a couple of guests on, Ed Stark and Bill Slabasek, to look back at where we've been. We're about to go in, and the reason is we've hit the halfway point in the 50 years. From going one drawing a year, which I am, we've passed the halfway point. So now is a good time to just kind of stop. Look back, which we did last week, and now take an assessment of where we're at, talk about that with you, look forward to what's going to happen, and then we'll pick up next week, back normal where we were. So this episode is probably going to be shorter than most, although those who know me know I can ramble. I can talk for an hour and a half, but it probably won't in this case. I am going to leave some time at the end to answer questions. If you have any questions that you'd like me to address, please put them, if you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, there's a very good chance that I can see anything you put in the comments. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer, please put a big capital Q at the front of it so I notice, because what you guys type will come in and scroll up for me, and I want to be able to find them quickly. So drop a question in the queue if you want that. In the meanwhile, I'm going to do a little dog and pony show, a little presentation. I want to come back here. Sorry, I'm setting myself up. There are times when I wish I had a producer. I wish I had someone else I was doing the show with. Usually it doesn't matter. I'm really happy to be doing it all by myself. But other times, it just would go a little easier if I could hand some of these chores off to someone else. Hello, Michael and chat. Thank you for joining me as usual. Hello, Crypt Walker. Thank you for joining. So yes, I'm going to do, this week only, I just want to do a little speechifying. I want to talk about where we've been and where we're going and all of that. So, I guess I should just get right into it. Alright, so, I started talking about what we're doing here, and I guess that is really the best place to start. The concept for this show, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons and the role-playing hobby. When I first started, I didn't make a point of bringing that up. it's not just D&D that I'm honoring here. Though this is the 50th anniversary of the game Dungeons and Dragons, it is also the 50th anniversary of the hobby of tabletop role-playing games. And I think several of my guests pointed out to me that so, while we've all worked on the game, a lot of us have spent as much time or more working on other games, so working in this industry. So I want it to be clear whenever I talk about it that this celebration, I'm using D&D as the lens, but I'm really celebrating the whole of the hobby. That said, it is D&D focused for these 50 shows, these 50 weeks, 50 plus shows. So you would think that that would mean that I would just start. The 2024 is the year of the 50th anniversary. I would start at the beginning of 2024 and just do it all year. And that's the idea that came to me. It's like, wait, 50 years, 52 weeks in a year, that's a great matchup for a show. I'm going to do a show that runs all year, celebrates it, and each week, each show, I can celebrate a different year in the history of D&D. And that was a great... I thought, wow, how did I not think of that before? How has no one else thought of that? I don't know what the answer to that was, but I do know that I didn't think about it until about the middle of January. It was at least the 15th of January when this idea first came to me that I should try to do something like what I'm doing. So, already off the perfect... If there was a perfect execution of this show, it would have started the first week of January and finished the last week of December and tie it all up in a nice little bow. Started off, already gone. The first show did not happen until the last day of January. I think the first episode, in fact, was January 31st. And that first episode did not, although I had guests, it was really the very first show was a brainstorming show. And so it wasn't until the second or third show, I think it was maybe in the second show, I started doing the drawings. But since we got started, I've done 30 shows. We've done 30 shows. This is the 30th show right now. You know what? I think one of the things I would like to do, so it's not just me staring up on the screen. There's something a little more interesting. I'm going to pull up a slideshow. Now, I tried to get this automated, and I failed at that. So I'm just going to have to manually, every once in a while, just move this one step down the line. But these are the things that, these are the cartoon homages that I've done. So, meanwhile, back at what I was saying. We've done 30 episodes so far. And that's only 1 week did I not have it. I've not been able to be live every week. I've had a couple of recorded episodes because of traveling out of town for conventions and such. But I have, with 1 week's exception, managed to have a show every Wednesday, which I think that's a pretty good start. And in fact, that 1 week that we didn't have it was because of technical issues that meant that the guest who had agreed to come on, everything crashed out and it didn't work. And I figured that going on with just me was not the way to go. So that was the week we missed. Oops. Still, 30 episodes, I think we're looking pretty good. I've gotten a good rhythm. I understand what I'm doing. I think that you, the audience, is understanding, and we're beginning to get some traction. We're beginning to get new people coming in every week to check us out. Over those 30 episodes, I have done 27 cartoon homages. Most of them have been of covers of D&D products, um, with a couple of exceptions. One of them being the one on the screen here right now, which is an interior piece from the Greyhawk booklet, the Greyhawk supplement for the original D&D. But most of them have been covers, and the reason is what I'm trying to do here. Like I said, the goal is to do an homage to a classic piece of D&D art. Now, there's a lot of ways you could define classic piece of D&D art. For me, I'm trying to get pieces that people who have been fans for a long time, and particularly people who were fans in the year that I'm picking the art from, will look at that and it will be a piece of art that is evocative to them. That it really captures a moment in the D&D story, the D&D history. So this particular year, this would be 1975. There weren't a lot of products. First of all, the art was rudimentary as it was at the beginning of the game. It was the beginning of the game. It was all black and white, pen and ink drawings, and mostly by enthusiastic amateurs or semi-pros. So it was very different from the pieces that I would come to be doing later as the show rolls along. But I did decide in these instances to colorize them because I don't know, I felt like it. Also, I thought it would make a nicer piece of art. So we've had 27 cartoon homages so far, and 25 guests that given 30 episodes and 27 drawings. How did I get to 25 guests? It's because I've had a couple of people who've been on more than once, and that will happen again as we continue to go along. I have guests back. I think almost every guest we've ended after about an hour and a half, feeling like there was more to be said, and I'm happy to have these folks back and have a chance to chat with them again. But I also want to make room for new people to come in, so we'll have mostly new people going forward. But some of the old like me, some of the people who have already visited will visit us again, I'm sure. We have a free newsletter for this show. In case you don't know what that is, I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. Usually wait till the end to do that. But if you are watching this and you don't know it, you can get a free newsletter for this show at 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com, and that gets you access to these cartoon homages as soon as they are completed, ahead of their public release. That gets you news on who's coming up to be a guest. You can submit questions and go to the top of the queue, and just kind of a peek behind the scenes contact with me and the show. There are things where I come and ask you for your opinions, and that will probably increase in the second half of the year of the show. Newsletter. We currently have, the reason I bring it up is that we have 226 people who are subscribed to the free newsletter, and 10 of them have decided to be to upgrade to being paid members. Who being a paid member gets you some extra cool stuff too. Excuse me. This is not a push to get more people to pay, though. Let me tell you, the fact of the matter is that this show takes a certain amount of time and effort and concentration on my part. I'm not doing it specifically to make any money, but any money I do make from it is helpful. So while I'm not going to do an NPR-style cajole-a-thon to try and get more people to become paid subscribers. If you're enjoying this and you have the means and you want to, I don't know if reward me is what I want to say, but help to ease the time I can afford to spend on this, consider upgrading to a paid subscription. And if you're not subscribed, you know what? I'm going to say it right now. I want you, please go to the URL I just had on the screen, 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com. Look, I will even go back and do it again. Please go there, sign up, and get the free newsletter. You'll get about 4 updates a week of various things. A lot is like, who's going to be the guest? Here's the picture that was completed. What else? It's about, who's going to be the guest. Oh, after the show, you'll get a link for where you can go back if you didn't see it. You'll get an update with the link to where you can go to watch it on replay. And if you're a paid member, you get access to a what's the word I'm looking for? A replay, a video replay, a process video. That's the word, process. Process video of the cartoon homage that has just been completed. So I tell you what, like I say, I'm not pushing anyone. I'm not trying to squeeze the money out of you. Maybe, somewhere in my little businessy heart I am. But it would help me. The things that would help. The things that help me a lot are if you click like and subscribe. They say this on all the videos. The reason they do is that it helps them. It's advantageous to them. And I'll tell you why it's advantageous. I was about to say it's not a monetary thing, but eventually it is. Right? I don't have enough followers on any of my particular platforms to be monetizing anything with ads or anything like that. But I'm not above it. And in order to do that, I need to have more subscribers. So having more subscribers would help me in that way. But more importantly, subscribers help to tell the platform that people are interested in this content. And that helps them to choose. It helps them when choosing what to show to other people. And so having more subscribers and having interactions helps to get this show shown to new people who can join us and enjoy us. So please, I will ask of you to subscribe to the newsletter, free. I'm not pushing you to go to the paid route. Subscribe to the free newsletter at 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com. And please, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, and Facebook maybe not as good an option because everything goes through my personal account. LinkedIn, I'd run this on LinkedIn. I run this on Twitch. Wherever you are, please subscribe. Please click the subscribe button. That would help me a great deal. And yes, and click like. As Ravenlore says, whenever you're watching it, make sure you give it a click like. That is, sorry, just checking that I got a message. I'm expecting a message that was not it. All right, so there we go. We have 226 free subscribers, and that's great. I love it. I would love to, you know what? If by the end of this we could get to 10 subscribers for every year that D&D has been around, if we get to 500 free subscribers, click my heels up and go hoo-ha. So that is where we are right now. That we've done 30 shows, got 27 cartoon homages completed. I've had 25 guests. Hope to have another 25, so we get at least up to 50 guests before we finish celebrating this this anniversary, this 50th anniversary of D&D and the role-playing hobby. And I'm happy. I'm very happy with where we're at so far. That said, improvements can be made. And so I'm looking forward to what is coming next. What's coming next? I already see 2 questions up there. Michael, I see them. I'm gathering those for a Q&A session. But thank you. Again, as I said earlier, if you have questions, if you have any questions about what I'm saying or things you'd like to know or anything like that, put them in the chat with a Q next to them. And I specifically have I wrote out a plan, a show plan for this episode. I have a Q&A section, and I will answer them there. Having said that, we're looking ahead. I want to look ahead at what's going on for the future, for the next section of this show. So we've gotten up through the year 2000 in our cartoon homages, and we're going to continue. Next episode, we're going to go to the product. I'm going to do a cartoon homage to something that came out in 2001. Here's a way that I should definitely post about this. I'm going to post about this on the newsletter. It's an interesting truth that the styles of the of product design changed a lot, and over the course of the life of D&D. I think it might be interesting actually to have a group of art directors or people who have been involved in that end of it to discuss that. But I think that may be a later thing. Kind of, you know what? The more I do this, the more I think I should have written this out. I have my plan, but I should have made it even plannier. Yes. So I'm gonna skip ahead a bit to say that I'm halfway through this show, which is, as I said before, the goal was to celebrate the 50th anniversary with 50 shows, one celebrating with a piece of art from each year. I've gotten this far, and I find that I really like doing this show, and I'm already bought in. I'm committed to continuing on after I hit the 50 years. After we go through this, I want to stick to the plan and do exactly what I said. Honor the 50th anniversary of the game and the hobby by doing an episode that I do a drawing that celebrates a product from each year of the history of D&D. But even as I do that, I realize all the things that I'm not. First of all, some of these years, it's insanely hard to pick one image. So some of the years have been really hard. Just so many big products with so many great, and that's just the covers. It's not even looking at any of the interior art. One of the reasons I brought up the thing with the art directors is that the era that we're looking at right now, right around the 3rd edition era, the style of covers shifted, and what was important to put in the art on the cover shifted a little bit too. And although, like in the shows where I was looking at stuff from the late 1980s and through most of the 1990s, there were I don't know, there were around 100 D&D products a year coming out, sometimes more than that. And it's certainly more if you counted the magazines and the novels. There were probably closer to 200, 250 D&D products a year. By the time we get to this era, that number drops precipitously. And the style of the covers change to the point that we're not getting the kinds of images like the ones that I've been capturing. That's not to say they're not great images. They are. But they're serving a different purpose. And the purpose, and they're just fewer drawings or paintings that capture the moment in gaming. The way, like this one, the Ravenloft, I6 Ravenloft, or what was the next one here, or Dragonlance. Like, these are images that when we see them, we remember where we're at. Look at the covers from most of the third edition era, the early 2000s. I loved those covers. I thought they were great, but they don't capture. They don't really give me anything to do an homage of. It's just not there. There is still great art. There's great art on the interior. And for all of these books, over the entire run, there's great art on the interior too. I've just been focusing on covers. So what I was going to say there is I intend to put a message out in the newsletter, which I was just encouraging you to join, inviting you and gathering information for what you might pick to be these kinds of inspirational pictures for you in the 3rd and 4th edition era. Particularly the 4th edition era, I was no longer working on D&D at that point. I was freelancing, and I was very, very busy doing other projects. So my familiarity with them is much less, and they don't speak to me the way the earlier ones did. And so I would love to find images that speak to the people who are the fans, what the things you would like to see homaged. And going back to what I said a little earlier, I'm enjoying doing the show, and I'm committing to continuing to do it after I finish the 50 years. I don't know if that means I'll have to change the title of it. Probably not. Just keep the same title. But broadening things out significantly to bring in games that are not Dungeons and Dragons and people who worked on other games. A lot of the guests have worked on many different games already, but my focus in who I'm having on the show in these first 52, 54 shows are people who worked on D&D. There are a lot of super talented people, very entertaining people working in the game industry who never worked on D&D, who never worked for TSR or Wizards of the Coast, and many of whom are also friends of mine, certainly at least convention acquaintances of mine, and I would love to have conversations with them too. And so that's something that's going to happen after we finish the second half of celebrating the anniversary. That's coming up in the future. I'm continuing to book guests. I've got a list of people I've got a list of people I've talked to and have agreed. And I have a list of people I want to get that I haven't heard back from yet. And that's ongoing. Currently, I don't know who the guest is going to be next week, but I've got a pretty good idea who the guests are going to be over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. And there's some good names in there, some big names in there from the history of D&D. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I wish I could tell you right now who it's going to be next week, but I'm still trying to sort that out. But we have, you know what? I will do this. People I have talked to who have, in principle, agreed to be on the show include Peter Atkinson, Ed Green. Uh, Ed Greenwood? Why did that? I was about to say Greenberg. Ed Greenwood, who was the person who's it was Ed's that I was supposed to have on the week that we had to cancel because of technical problems, and we just haven't been able to get our schedules to sync up again. Um, Monty Cook has agreed. Sean K. Reynolds has agreed. I've talked to, let's say, other people who haven't. Yeah, you know what? I was going to say there's a bunch of people I've talked to who've theoretically agreed, but I don't feel like that we've really nailed. It's kind of like saying, yeah, I'd love to do it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many of them will uh, think better of that when we're not hanging out, having having a drink or having a meal together. Um, so yes, we got a lot of big people, fun people coming up. But one thing has happened, not happened. One thing I have noticed is that Wednesday at this time is not good for everyone. So a bunch of these folks um, can't make it to the show at this time. So I'm going to start doing more recorded episodes, um, which is to say, and if you're not watching this right now, you're like, big deal. I watch recorded episodes all the time. It's true, but I like to have folks in the chat stream, and I'm watching the chat going on right now. I like to be able to interact and get questions, and it creates a nice feeling. So I will I will announce to the people who are signed up to the newsletter. There that is again, the free newsletter. We'll find out when the recordings are and be invited to participate in just this way going forward. And then the new episodes will air in this time slot. A lot of them will still be live now. Whenever possible, I'm going to have a live show at this time. I'm just saying, looking forward, there are going to be more recorded shows than there have been in the first half of our run. So I just want to let you know that. I don't want that to come as a surprise. It feels like there was something else I wanted to say about that, but can't think of it. So moving on. Bookings are done. I'm looking at my notes here. Bookings are done. More episodes to come. Recorded episodes. We've been looking. I haven't moved that in a while. Looking at the art print. Oh, the art. So we're looking at the pieces that I've done. I'm kind of scrolling through them here as I talk. I wish I could have figured out how to both get it up on my screen and automatically slideshow. But like so much in the history of this show, I didn't think about that until right before it needed to start. And my ways, I can create a slideshow, and I can put my art on the screen. I couldn't figure out how to do both of them together, not in the 15 minutes before it showed, when it occurred to me that it would be better to have art rather than just my face sitting up here blathering at you. So I'm doing it manually. I was going to say we've done the 27 pieces, and okay. Here's the thing. One of the things I said at the start, and one of the promises I made when I started the newsletter, was that I was going to make art prints of all of the pieces that I completed for the show. And that each month I would pick one person from the subscriber base, one person from everyone who subscribed to the newsletter, and they would get a free art print. And that those art prints would be available for sale exclusively to members of the of the newsletter, to subscribers of the newsletter. Free subscribers and on. Paid subscribers get discounts on the cost. Would get discounts on the cost of that. And then I immediately found out that the place I had been going to get my art prints done was not going to do for this. They weren't going to be able to handle things at the scale and at the price line that I thought they were. And so I started looking and trying different things out. And it's only about a month ago that I finally got the art prints that the art print situation, the actually doing the art prints situation squared away. So I'm going to come back here, just me, because I'm going to hold up my book. I have in here art prints of the first 22, 21 or 22 or so. Here, a couple we were just looking at here. This is what they look like. I've done them. Everything up through, back to come here, up through the Glantry art print has been printed and is in my possession right now. I have them and I can begin to make them available to pretty stuff to the subscribers. So there's a piece of news in that one of my basic promises when I started out was that there were going to be art prints and people were going to get them. My promise was people would get them for free. And I have not lived up to that to this point. Through fault, not completely of my own. I mean, can't say I don't hold any responsibility, but not completely. But now I've figured that out. And I have made the selections. I'm going to catch up. I'm going to send one, a free art piece to one subscriber for each of the months that we've been going so far, which is 7. Right? February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 7. And I'm going to continue to, once a month, pick someone and send them a free art print. I was going to announce the names of the people because I did do that, used a random generator to pick out of our list of subscribers. But when you subscribe, it doesn't tell me your name. It only tells me your email address. And I don't want to share anyone's email address without their okay. So I'm going to be sending emails out to the 7 people who have been selected. And I will hopefully get their okay to tell you their names. And I'll post that in either a post to the newsletter or I'll say them on the shows who our winners were and will continue to be. On top of that, I'm going to say that one of the other things I promised with the art prints is that people who subscribed, there are two. I don't talk a lot about the paid levels. There are 2 paid levels. One is a basic paid level where you get access to the videos and a bigger discount on any things that I sell related to the show, which so far is nothing. But we've got more of that coming up in a minute too. But there's also a higher level where anyone that signs up at that level will get 1 free art print a month. And so those people also have not been not gotten what they've paid for, as it were. But now that the prints are here, I'm going to catch up on that too. I do want to announce that I'm making a slight change to that. People who subscribe at that highest level will get an art print for every month, but I'm not going to mail them out monthly. It turns out that the prices have gone up for shipping these things, and so I'm quarterly going to send you 3 pieces of art, some of things that happened in that quarter. So what you get will not be affected. I will catch up with what I owe you. Now that they're here, I will be sending out, I'll be catching up my arrears in art print, in free art print situations. And then, moving forward, people at the upper levels will get, every 3 months, will get a batch of 3 mailed to them. So I wanted to let folks know that. Um, in case that since everyone's been super kind, but no one has pressured me about this. I've had kind inquiries about how things were going, but I take my responsibility to fulfill these things pretty seriously, and I want to make sure that what I promise, I deliver. And so I want to tell you now that I'm changing the promise. Getting caught up to what I owe you now, and then going forward, the promise is changing. And if that changes how you want to interact with the newsletter, if it changes what level you want to subscribe at, I completely understand. Yeah, I want to make sure you get what you're promised and that you're happy. I want to make sure everyone's happy. So that is where things stand with the art prints. But I said something about other merch and possibilities to buy other things. And that's happening. Yeah. And it's going to happen starting in just a couple of weeks. I'm going to have a Kickstarter campaign. Why am I stumbling over this? I'm going to create a 2025 wall calendar. Two kinds of calendars: a wall calendar and postcard-sized desk calendars, desk calendar set, featuring art that has been made for the show, and you know the month of the year, the way calendars work. So I started looking into that just this week. Everything seems to be lining up. I'm going to do a Kickstarter. Might be backer kit. I'm going to do some fundraising so I can get not just you folks, but everyone who wants to get it a calendar with some of this fine and fancy art on it. If you are a subscriber, because part of the deal was, as a subscriber, you get benefits that people who aren't subscribers don't get. If you're a subscriber, you will get extra things that go along with it. As a Kickstarter thing, I can't really offer discounts, so I'll increase the number of free things you get based on what level of subscriber you are. But it starts with free. So if you are a subscriber and you wind up backing this Kickstarter, there will be extra bonus nice tchotchkes for you that will have a value of $5 or $10 or so, the amount that you would have gotten a discount in. I'll make sure I cover it that way. But it's going to be a Kickstarter. It's going to be a short Kickstarter. I'll probably only run it for 2 weeks. I will talk about it here on the show. I will talk about it for sure in the newsletter, the free newsletter. So yes, look for that. Hopefully that sounds exciting to you. I think it would be great. Now it's going to be it's not going to be a large one. It's going to be either 6 or 8 inches doubled over. So the images are going to be 6 or 8 inches square. So it's going to be a small wall calendar, or like say a postcard-sized desk calendar set. It should be fun. And the prices are such that I can do this even if we have a modest, by modest I mean small, number of people that are interested. Hopefully you are. I mean, one of the things I love about calendars is that it's art too, right? You get it, and all right, maybe people don't use calendars as much as they do, but it gets you a collection of artwork. And that right now is the only way, well, unless you want to buy the art prints. And I guess as a subscriber, you have the option of art prints. The only way other people in the world will have an option to do this is to buy the calendar. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Other possibilities. So this, I know, is something that came up. Someone posed in a question. Other things that I'm may or are either am. Grammar's hard. Things I am or may be doing uh, in the future. One of them is an art book collecting all of these pieces. And I think I said this from very early on in the show. My hope is that when all of this is done, that I can once again do a fundraiser to cover the cost of printing an art book that collects all of the cartoon homages that are done over the course of this 50-year retrospective of the 50th anniversary of D&D. So, yes. Whoever asked that question earlier, the answer is yes. My intention is to have an art book. It will not be until the end of the run. So right now it's early February. If everything goes according to plan, and I don't have any other skip weeks that happen between now and then, we will wrap up with everything in late January or early February. And then I can look at the idea of doing a book. So we're talking late winter or early spring is when it's likely to happen. In the meanwhile, you can get the calendar if you want some of the art. Or you can buy prints. Or you can just keep coming back every week and seeing it for free. Another thing that I'm considering doing is putting together ebooks that have full or partial transcriptions of the conversations I've been having with folks. There are complications with that. People did not agree to having when they came on the show, they did so to be on a live show and do an interview. They did not agree to have that interview published, to have a book published with their words in it. Now there's a fine line that walks legally, because the show is open and they are public figures making public statements. In theory, I could just take what they said and publish it as a quote, as said on X, and give a reference. But ethically, that's not cool. So I'm talking to some experts behind the scenes, and I'm working up a document that I want to send to everyone who has been a guest on the show, and give it to people before they come on the show in the future, that will state that I have that they give their permission for me to create interview ebooks products. Suppose I could also attach print on demand, so maybe you could even have it as a physical book, but something that would can collect the high points of these conversations. I don't think that anyone really needs a word for word everything that was said version of any of these conversations, but there are moments in each of them which I think are worth collecting and people might want to have. So I'm looking at creating some kind of books of interviews. I mean, in theory, I could take every episode and make it its own book and release it like that. I don't think that's a good idea. I wouldn't want that. I look at that, and that's not a product that needs to exist. But a product that takes either people who are related in when they worked on things, or what they worked on, or when they worked together, and put their interviews together, or what everyone has to say on a certain subject. Those might be interesting. Those would be interesting. So I'm looking into producing those. Sorry, I wasn't. Michael says, regarding the interview book, it also gives them a chance to clarify or expand on the points. Yes, I guess. Part of the goal of any of this is to find things that I can do that don't require a lot of extra work. Going through something and giving them a chance to, where I've got to put the book together and get comments and get sign-offs and give them the chance to say more. Would need to be a project that got funded somehow. Again, maybe crowdfunding. I don't know if enough people subscribe as paid members to the newsletter. And again, I wasn't going to flog this. I wasn't bringing this up to push that. But the fact of the matter is, if a lot of people came on as paid members, I could and would take that money and turn it around and put it to use to do things like that, to pay editors, to pay for time to do this kinds of thing. Right now, it kind of needs to have a very little cost in time and money, and then it probably also needs to find a way to generate a little money on its own, which is why I'm doing things like kickstarting and talking about ebooks that I could sell. Anyway, good idea. What else? I think that covers everything that I really wanted to talk about. I'm very excited. Like I said at the start, the state of our show is strong. I think the show's going very well. I'm very happy with where things have gone over this first 30 episodes, these first 26 years that have been covered in the drawings that I've done so far. I'm very much looking forward to doing more, and as I said before, I'm committed to, when this is done, continuing the show and expanding its scope. I'm going to bring up again the free newsletter. I'll probably do this at least one more time. 50 Years in the Dungeon.substack.com, where you have access to all of these things, and all the stuff I talked about that's going to be happening in the newsletter. That's the place to be for free. I'm going to be asking people to submit ideas for pieces of art from the second half of the history that they might like to see celebrated, particularly in the years when the covers were less illustrative. And again, for my friends who worked on those, I'm not saying that it's not illustrative or it's not beautiful or it's not artistic. It is all of those things, but images like these appear less and less. And so in order to find out the pieces from the interior, which did continue to be like this, and which ones speak to you, I'm going to be asking the people on the newsletter that question. And if you want to know when the Kickstarter will be happening, the newsletter is going to tell you all that. If you want to know what you want to get a discount on things, you want the extra tchotchkes. I saw someone here in the chat loved when I said the word tchotchkes. The newsletter, that's where you get all the stuff. It's free. Come on, sign up. And yes, there are paid options, and yes, I will thank you. And yes, I did just say that if I got enough people to come in, not you, but I got enough people to come in and sign in as paid ones, it would help. That money would go to create these things you want. It's true, but that's not the push here. This is not a marketing push. The show continues to be available. All the replays are on my YouTube channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, that is youtube.com/AD&D @ the real Stanex. I really should make an overlay that says that, but I don't have one right now. The real Stanex. Uh, um, Sign up there. I stream to all of these different places, and I do so because I want to make it available to as many people as possible to watch the show and interact and enjoy it. But the core, the central, the hub, the main place that I would like people to be is YouTube. It's the easiest one for me to keep an archive. It's the easiest one for people to reach out to me. And in theory, eventually, it's the one that could generate some revenue for this poor freelance artist who used to be a big wheel in D&D. Please come on and subscribe at YouTube. Also at the free newsletter. All right, so that just leaves me down to the. Let me come in here and update that a little more. We're getting towards the end there. Let me see. So now I'm going to do the Q&A, and I noticed there were a couple of questions. I think I answered at least one of them. But if you have any questions, drop them in the chat with a large Q at the start, so I notice that it's a question. Linnea says, "Oh, real Stanex has two N's." Yes. Sorry, Stanex is Stannex. And I say the real Stanex is the, T-H-E, real, R-E-A-L, Stanex, S-T-A-N-N-E-X. YouTube.com/the real Stanex. Stanex, of course, being the name I use on almost every platform when I can get it. Here we go. Let's see. So I'm scrolling through here and I see a Q. Well, the game debuted a little later. Oh, yeah. So I was talking about how I didn't get started until later in the year. And Michael asked, the game itself. He's right. The game itself didn't debut until March or May in 1974. So there is that. I was a little bit ahead of that if you're measuring from there. But the Wizards and everyone else who's celebrating the anniversary, you pick the year. The year is 1974. So this is 50 years. So yeah, I don't feel so bad that I didn't get started right at the beginning of the year, but it would have been so perfect. And this is the kind of idea, when I had the idea itself, I found myself thinking, how did I not think of this before? If I had thought of it in November, I could have had everything lined up and ready to go at the start of the new year. But I didn't. I didn't think about it until the middle of January. And then everything, I tell you, I started the very first episode before I really even, it was still kind of like an outline on paper. I wasn't sure that it was even going to work, particularly. But it has, and we're here. We're at the halfway point. I'm very excited about that. Okay, I'm going to scroll through here a little more. Any plans on collecting these drawings for something? Well, there it is. I answered that question. Yes. My plan, as I said earlier, is to create an art book when this is all over. My plan also is to have a 2025 calendar, hanging a wall calendar and a desk calendar for you to use. Someone had suggested that if I did, when this is all over and I have 52 pieces, I could do a weekly tear-off calendar. Or if I did a whole lot more art, I could do a daily calendar. But that's a lot of work. It'd be a while before we have enough for that. But I mean, one of the questions right now is which 12 pieces do I choose to use for a calendar for 2025? I'll probably put a poll up for that in the newsletter also. Newsletter. So much going on in that newsletter. All right, let's see if we have any other questions here. Things that are referring to things I don't remember what I was talking about. Backer Kit has been courting RPG community to a great extent. Yeah, Backer Kit. I've used Backer Kit before. It was a number of years ago, and my experience was not great. But everyone I know who uses them really likes them. I think that the small problems that I had, my experience wasn't terrible by any means. Don't get me wrong, but Backer Kit's a possibility. The only reason I say Kickstarter is that I want to do this now. I want to get it done in the next few weeks. I already have an account there. And here, you know what? It's confession time. Can stand confession time. The only problem for me with Kickstarter is that I have a Kickstarter that I ran 2 years ago that I have not fulfilled on yet, and I'm working on it. I actually owed the people that back there a message that I intend to be sending to them this year, in case any of you are among those people. And when I originally saw that I was not making that deadline, my promise to myself was that I would not do another Kickstarter until I fulfilled that last one. But even though I'm ready to start fulfilling that last one, that's what I'm going to be telling the folks when I write to them later this week. I won't be done fulfilling, and I'll still be behind. But Kickstarter has a lot of things going for it over Backer Kit for me immediately, but that doesn't mean I won't try it out. I'm looking into which is actually going to be better for this calendar. The other thing is, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, well, maybe what I should do is do one of them, do a Kickstarter now, and maybe in November do it again as a Backer Kit, so that a lot of people aren't thinking about calendars in September. Even though people who publish calendars are very much thinking about calendars in September. So maybe a way to do it is to do one, probably the Kickstarter right now, and then look into it and do a Backer Kit as we get closer to the end of the year and more people will be interested in getting a calendar. I'm going to think about that. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the comments here regarding the interview book. Yeah. Read that already. Michael says, it's been a great show. Sorry that I didn't catch it from day one. Hey, you know what? You catch it when you catch it. And the good thing is, again, if you go back to the YouTube channel, you can watch all the episodes are up there. Despite the problems I had with YouTube in the spring that crashed it down, they're all back up on this new channel, and they're all available. So you can watch all of them. And I think that's particularly good because one in particular is that I was able to get Jim Ward, the former vice president from TSR and creator of, among other things, Metamorphosis Alpha, who I've known for years. I was able to get him on and have a very fun interview. A good chance to hang out and talk to my old friend about 3 weeks before he passed away. So I'm very glad that I still had copies of that and I could repost it, and it's now available for anyone that wants to go back and watch it. So, Michael, catch up at your leisure. Let's see. Coming in here, Wasi hasn't been doing anything from day one of the anniversary yet either, so I'm good. Yeah, well, I mean, I know Wasi has been planning it though. I know that if the people that work on the game had their druthers, a lot more would have been done from the beginning, and we'd be having a lot more little things happening. Instead, this kind of company it is, the size company it is, doing lots of little things is not as attractive as doing a couple of really big things. And so that's what you're seeing. Becky says, if you sell these pieces as a calendar, are there copyright issues? There are not. I'm not going to be selling. So there are not copyright issues. These are homages, although they are clearly based on other things. They are not direct copies of them. All of them have some significant change, not the least of which is the aspect ratio. Almost all of these were done as rectangular covers, and I have recreated them as square images. This was not a plan to answer that particular question, but it's true. I think that it is morally, ethically incumbent upon me to say that they are homages and to give credit to the people whose work I am inspired by. But this falls under the fair use side of interpretation and commentary and parody. I guess because it's a cartoon, I can probably claim parody, but certainly interpretation and commentary. And the fact that I'm doing this for a purpose not to fool anyone. There is no confusion between my cartoon version and the originals. So there is not a copyright issue. However, as I have learned recently, that might not stop someone from challenging me on a copyright issue on these. And sending legal, sending a letter asking me to cease and desist. I will cross those bridges if and when they occur. My intention is always to be respectful to the people whose work I'm highlighting because it is inspirational, to give them respect and credit and shine as much spotlight on them as I can. Not to claim that this is my own thing. Not to claim that this is an official D&D anything. Is it possible that Hasbro or Wizards might decide that they don't want me to do it and send me a cease and desist order? It's possible. But if that happens, it would come in the form of a cease and desist, and I would evaluate that and probably cease and desist. Not much I can do about that. But from the basic standpoint of copyright law, I'm not infringing on their trademark, and I am not using their art. I have done fan art, and the Wizards itself has a lot of rules. They may want to say that it's fan art and has to fall in line with their statements on that. Again, if I were to get contacted with such claims or requests, I will evaluate them and act accordingly within the law. I'm not doing this to cheat or or otherwise, abuse anyone. I'm doing it because I love the game, and you guys do too. Lena says, do a poll, let the controversy begin. Yes, there's no, people can be a little bent out of shape if I don't ask their opinion. But they get very bent out of shape if you ask their opinion and you choose someone else's. Becky says, you and Lego seem the ones taking the anniversary seriously. There are a lot of people I know who are doing it, taking the anniversary seriously. I wish that Wizards of the Coast was doing more for it. We talked a little bit on a previous show about the 25th anniversary, half of D&D's history ago, when we had, I was working for Wizards at the time, and we celebrated by having a 25th anniversary tour, where we had stops at book and game stores around the country, where we sent a game designer and a book author and sometimes an artist to show up with a little kind of display of like historical display that we would set up and then do signings and give talks. It was a lot of fun. I wish they were doing something like that. These days, it seems like that's all replaced with online live streams and such, which is great. But it was a lot of fun going on that tour, and I went to. I was in L.A. I think, was it L.A.? I was in Connecticut. Maybe it was Tennessee. I was at a couple of different stops. It was a lot of fun. Toby Ford says, if Castles and Crusades can do their legacy homages for the covers of their rule books, I don't see why I can't. Yes, well, yes, you're right. There's no but about that. The only but is in how far you change it and how directly you state the homage. Will sometimes get different people or different copyright owners or trademark owners to feel differently about it. And I don't know that Castle and Crusades hasn't made a deal, with Wizards, with that there's some amount of either money they've paid or trade they are doing. Who knows? Who can say? It's a private deal between private companies, or if it exists, or they're just doing what they're doing and counting on the same kind of cloak of, I'm legally protected. The challenge for small companies or independent artists is that larger companies have lawyers on retainer, and in the end, if they can afford to try to do things legally that we can't afford to defend ourselves against. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not even intimating that I'm worried about it. If I was worried about it, I probably wouldn't. I'd choose to do a different thing. I believe I'm right, and I believe that is not only self-evident, but that they're not going to care. They don't care about what I'm doing. Why would they? All I'm doing is saying, wow, great for their show. And I'm not doing work that is in competition with them. But, as I say, you just don't know. And all kinds of business is now turning into a weird little seminar. All kinds of business has its risks, and you've got to be prepared to take those risks. You've got to know plans for what you're going to do if the worst things happen, if the bad things happen. But particularly if you're acting with good intentions and good ethics, you line up what you think is the best plan, and you act accordingly. You follow it and deal with the negatives if if they come up. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to wrap up here. Much though I didn't want to, I've gone just as long as a regular show does. Right now, this this is a new release. This is the finished cartoon homage to the 3rd edition basic Dungeons and Dragons adventure game, which I started on episode 28. I was doing the drawing as I was working on 28. I just finished it, and it went out to subscribers of the newsletter today. So they were the first ones to see it this morning. Anyone watching the show right now, you're the second ones to see it. It's not going to get released publicly as an image for another week, maybe more. So yeah, there's your bonus for sitting through all of my flapping and pontificating. A lovely piece by Todd Lockwood. God, I love this image. And I don't mean my version of it. I mean Todd's painting. And that's part of the secret of this show, of what I choose to be the pieces that I do. They're the pieces that I look at, and I think, God, I remember that. Oh. It makes me. It reminds me of the time it happened, and it makes me want to play. It inspires me to want to play tabletop role-playing games, and in particular, Dungeons and Dragons. So, having said all that, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for sitting and listening to me ramble for over an hour. This was only supposed to be about 40-45 minutes. You please leave comments. If you have any comments, if you're watching this later, please, as I said several times, please sign up for our free newsletter, 50 Years in the Dungeon.substack.com. And if you've been watching the show, there's a bunch of good things coming in the newsletter sometime soon. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for sharing this first half of the 50th anniversary with me. I will be back next week with a guest. Still don't know who it is. But I'll be back with a guest, and I'll be doing another drawing, and we can have another lovely time here on 50 Years in the Dungeon. Thank you, everyone.